See, there we go. Perfect. Okay, now they're back. So this could potentially be you, right? Looking at the slide, you as youth, I know that she looks maybe a little bit older, not a youth, but you might be juggling so much. You might have kids of your own. You might be dealing with family issues or parents. There's being active and eating well, and there's school and time management and sleep and finances. And there's so many things going on, and especially for youth, it does become heightened, right? You have so many things to juggle, plus all of our concerns and COVID and pandemic related stressors that are coming into our lives. So we want to help you kind of manage those and provide these tips and resources, especially with going back to school, that might be a little bit helpful. Some things you might try and say, okay, that didn't work, or yeah, you know what, this I'm already doing, but hopefully there's going to be some things in here that are maybe a little bit newer, maybe things that you can try and incorporate. And just knowing too that trying one thing and saying, oh, well, this didn't work, I tried it once, may not be the best, right? You want to make sure that you are committing to it and saying, you know what, I'm going to keep trying it and keep trying it until, hey, you know what, I've tried it enough that it doesn't work, but sticking to things hopefully will help people. So CMHA, we had a webinar for going back to school as well. This was mostly geared towards parents helping their youth return to school, but this is what, when they did surveys and when they talked to also Kids Help Phone, the worries and the big things at the moment. So these might apply to you, and there might be some new ones. So there's new rules about heading back and adjusting to routines. Recognizing friends behind masks. How will I communicate with teachers? Like I used to see facial expressions, right? There's the nods and wave we can do now, exaggerated facial expressions, but it's hard to read people now behind masks. People are worried about that. Afraid about not being able to keep up with the schoolwork. The youth have mentioned that they're feeling lonely. They're losing touch with friends. So also coming back to school, if these friends weren't in my bubble, but other people were hanging out together and now hearing about all these awesome, fun things that they did together, and you're like, oh, well, I feel left out, right? Or even thinking, hey, it's a back to school party. My parents maybe aren't letting me go. Or you don't feel safe going, but you don't know how to say no, and feeling worried that people might be like judging you or maybe making fun of you or kind of looking at you differently that way. So that was something for youth as well. The idea of no extracurriculars, there's no clubs, there's no sports. Again, it may change and it may look very different for different schools, but right now, this is how it is. If you're going back into the schools as well, some of the youth had mentioned that it is now just schoolwork, right? Now, you can't do anything at lunches, really. There's no guest speakers coming in, so everything might still have to be virtual. So I can still do presentations, but kind of coming in and having these assemblies and fun things at lunch, and even like carousels that people had, or hey, therapy dogs came in. That probably is not happening until we don't know right now. And then also youth have mentioned that there's the disappointment for missing out on things from the previous year. That still sticks for people, right? And it's not just the grade 12s that have said, oh, you know, I missed out on graduation. Everyone kind of missed out on the end of the year. Maybe you missed out on things for the last 4 months. March, April, May, June. Yeah, 4 months that were happening. There were school dances, there was activities, there was field trips that maybe people didn't get to go on. So kind of having that disappointment and then thinking, well, I'm not going to get it again this year. What do I do? Or even if I am in grade 12 and I'm graduating this year, oh, well, will I be able to do any of these things? And again, the big thing is we just don't know. And I know that a lot of the news have said, oh, teachers know what they're doing. They're just keeping it from people and they've already got a huge list. No, I have a lot of teacher friends, and because I also work in the schools, I'm hearing it from the teacher's side. They don't know. They were only getting new information and it was constantly changing. Like, oh, hey, yesterday was the first day back because Monday was a holiday. And then that didn't happen. And now it's, oh, hey, they're doing a staggered start. Maybe that's something that we should do too. So things are constantly changing, but knowing that you aren't the only ones who don't have answers. But it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be hard, but being able to hopefully manage the unknown and saying, okay, what do I know right now at this time? Okay, so we want to talk about masks a little bit too. So that was mentioned on the previous one, and it's not fun, let's say. People don't love it. You know, you don't love breathing into something. It might be a little bit harder for people too, but it's the reality and it's here to stay. And this is what we need to kind of mention a little bit, that there is an upside. We can't just avoid it. Again, we do know that there are certain cases where people cannot wear masks, and we want to make sure that we're not judging those people. I know it's so hard to go out and be like, hey, why aren't you doing this? Like, you don't care, like you're not trying to help us. But there could be a reason that someone's not wearing a mask, and we just don't want to judge. And we might want to ask about it. And well, if someone's approachable, like it may not be in the grocery store, like, hello, why aren't you wearing a mask? But doing things in a nicer way instead of judging people. But there are upsides to them. So you can match your outfit. You know, they have really, really, really cool ones right now that will show off your personality or the things that you love. You can personalize them to yourself. People are homemaking them, which is actually just a really neat hobby to get into, or supporting local businesses that way as well. And the last really cute thing is just no one can tell if you have food in your teeth. So you don't know what's going on. And sometimes you're like, oh, like I have, you know, a couple zits on my chin. Well, hidden. And then you just don't know. You don't have to wear makeup on the bottom half of your face, right? If that's something that you would put on regularly. There's really neat things that they are doing and trying to make it so that it is okay, that it is a little bit more normal to see, right? And especially for younger kids, they would be a little bit afraid. So they have said that they're doing like superhero ones, right? So the kids are like, oh, yay, that's cool. So you're still comfortable. I still feel safe approaching you, right? I actually saw one and I was like, oh, if it wasn't for money, I would get it. It was a Harry Potter one. So if anyone else loves Harry Potter like I do, but it was the Marauders map. And when you breathe, that's when the little like footprints lit up. And that was super cool. Does anybody here want to share? Do you have a mask that you like? Do you have a favorite one? Do you have one that's really neat or cool? I'll give it a couple minutes if people wanted to unmute themselves and talk, or if you also wanted to write in the chat. Otherwise, I'll just carry on.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a cool mask.
I normally just wear like a black one, but then I'll put like really fancy eye makeup and then it looks cooler.
Nice. I know I have like 3 black ones because I'm also like, I wear a lot of black. I was like, that's my color and it will match every outfit.
Yeah.
It's becoming a fashion accessory, right?
Yeah. Well, that was just it. Like, you had to learn and adapt that way if you went to a Catholic school. I went to a Catholic school and we had to wear a uniform. That was it. This was your uniform. So what do? It was your jewelry. It was your backpack. It was your shoes, right? So this is just another accessory to kind of show who we are, kind of make us stand out a little bit. All right. So going back just a little bit, I did ask you a question. Is there any worries up here that you might be having that aren't listed? These were just kind of the top ones that you had mentioned, but is there anything specific? And again, if you don't feel like sharing, that's totally okay. It's very personal. Hopefully I'll be touching on things too that might be worrisome for people throughout the presentation. We can also write in the chat. You can send me an email to talk about it a little bit later. I put my email in the chat as well, and I'll be giving it out at the end of this recording as well, so people who are just listening.
And you can also send to me, and I can send to Jessica as well if you feel more comfortable.
Yes. I do feel like these are some that we've touched on, and then some that are what youth are feeling. So then we will carry on for this. And I think the big thing to start with is just about our language. So we have an entire Language Matters presentation all geared towards mental health. And now we have to add in our language and thinking about it in terms of this pandemic and COVID. So this was created around the beginning, but it really still rings true to the things that we're kind of thinking and saying. So you have to ask yourselves, what words am I using right now? Are they adding to my stress? Are they calming it? Like, language is so powerful and it can enhance our experience of fear, or it can help reduce it. So this is one tip and strategy that we can use like right off the bat, just kind of getting ourselves thinking differently and using different words, right? So the first one is, well, the world is crazy or gone mad. Well, we don't like to even use those words anyways, because that's what people have said stereotypically about people with mental illnesses and mental health concerns. So what we can say is this is an interesting time, right? Like, there's a big difference between that and just this is different. we're heading for an apocalypse. We're in a very different transition right now instead that will have positive and negative impacts. So it's already been 6 months, right? So we're in our 7th month, but we know that there are good things that have come out of this. And if you want to share anything that maybe you've learned, something that COVID has taught you, anything that you've taken away positive, please feel free to do that as well. I'll start. I know I don't like working from home because I'm a very big people person in the community, but this has taught me to slow down. I was go, 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 go. I said yes, 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 yes. I was working from 7 till 11 p.m. and not getting a lot of sleep, not really focusing on the self-care piece, and just having these last couple months to get into routine is really big. That work is work and my home life is my home life, even though it's in the same vicinity, but really kind of focusing on slowing down, taking time for me, and incorporating self-care daily. So that's something that I have learned. Through CMHA, we have learned that people love online webinars. We will still go back to doing presentations in person, but people love learning virtually. We've had people sit in from Australia and Europe into some of our webinars. So that's not going to go away. So that's something new that we are learning that it's good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'll go next if you like. Yeah, I think COVID-19 has given me an appreciation, like I said, of being able to slow down, take some time, go for a walk, and just value what we missed when we were in isolation. Because I think we took for granted being able to go to the shops, no lineups, go to the movies and go to restaurants and things like that. So I think for me, it's a new appreciation that, you know, that was, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? I took for granted, but now I don't take it for granted because that could be taken away from me quite easily, right? So, so I want to live in the here and now.
Yeah, like I've been trying to be happier with myself and doing things that I actually care about instead of doing things that I think other people will care about. Like I used to do all of these things for other people and make myself look like I was this, I don't even know, like just better. And then I realized like I just don't need to do all of those things. And there's a lot more happiness without trying to be like, or living for other people.
Yeah. You're on mute, Jessica. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Okay. Yes, no, I agree. And like, that's so great. And that is something huge that people will spend their entire life trying to learn, is to be them and really love yourself. And those people who love you and that support you, that are still with you, those are the true people, right? And that's another thing I was going to mention too, is people during COVID has realized deeper, stronger connections and relationships with people, and knowing that you can get by with little, right? Like sometimes it's like, oh, well, I cannot go outside. Like me, I'm very sad though. My baseball was canceled. It's something I do. It's a team sport and I love it and I love baseball, but it's like, okay, so what else do I have though that is still great? What else can I still do? So I'm still doing exercise, or like I was going for a run, but it's those little things that I don't need a bunch of big outside things. It helps though, and it'd be nice.
Yeah.
That's a really big one. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so even thinking of something like the words, isolation is scary and lonely. That may very well be the case, right? And that's something that we thought at the beginning, but it also helps you get creative. Like we said, we had to learn and adapt and be flexible with things. So is it lonely? Maybe are you living in an apartment alone? Yeah, maybe physically it's lonely, but then how did you reach out? How did you talk to people? Did you do drive-bys? Did you have Zoom calls, right? Did you join online clubs? Those types of things. There are ways that we can still communicate and not be so scared and alone. When people said like maybe a lot of their freedoms are gone. Nope, but we just said, as we had mentioned, we don't know what's really important to us. This is all too much. That might be something like so much, too overwhelming, one thing right after the other. But then knowing it will not last forever, right? And you can cope with this. We've already gone through it. We're all here. We've all gone through this, and we will still continue to work together to move forward. Things will, again, slowly start opening. And we've known that, right? We've gone into phase 3 now. And who knows what's going to happen with school? It might go back a phase, but then knowing, okay, well, they're still working on a vaccination. They're still working on this. And if we need to drop back, we've done it before and we can do it again. And it will come back around now too. And the big one that I wanted to touch on too is when people think that my life is on hold. And they're like, no, your life is still happening. Are you breathing? Do you get up every day? Do you go to bed? Like, the calendar is still moving. Your life is still happening. So we cannot put things on hold. When people say, oh, I'll do that, or I'll get around to that, maybe when COVID's over. Sorry, COVID is here to stay right along with us in the passenger seat of the car. Maybe one day it might be different, but it's still happening and we're still going through it, and knowing that we can still enjoy a lot of things. There's still things that we can do and get involved with, just maybe in a different way. But say, like, halting things and saying, I'm not going to do any of this until it's over, well, we really don't know when that's going to be, and you don't want to put your life on hold.
Yeah, that's so true, Jess, because, you know, I've had people tell me that, you know, my life has been on hold because of COVID, and now they've said, you know, I shouldn't have put my life on hold. I should have got out there and still job searched, and because there were jobs, right? So that is such a true statement. I even said that about myself for my birthday. My birthday was in April, and I said, okay, my life's on hold. I'm not, this year is gone, and I'm not celebrating a birthday this year. And I didn't really, because I couldn't go anywhere, because that was the height of the isolation. But I did say that myself, you know. Mm-hmm. So it is so true. But you know what? You're right. Life isn't on hold. Keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep going. Because it's going to move without you or not, but yeah, you want to go with it. And for those who had said, oh, I should have done this, or, oh man, I wasted this many months, start now. Your time is now. Start over. Each day is a fresh beginning. And we can't really worry about the, oh, I could have done this, I could have. Yeah, you know what? It doesn't have to be pandemic-wise. We could have said that, man, back when I was in university, I should have, you know, studied more and maybe hung out with friends less or gone out more, and I should have focused more on my studies, and I didn't. So I accepted consequences. I ended up staying a 5th year in school because I wanted to get higher marks. Oh, if only I had done it earlier. Well, I didn't. So how do I do it now? And how do I move on from here, and where do I go? And I don't regret that. You know, certain times I think, oh, well, I spent a little too much money. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a regret. But otherwise, everything that you do has led you to make the choices that you thought was best, that you were doing in the moment. And then you learn from them and you grow, and we move on. So start tomorrow. Yeah, it's never too late. Okay, so some little strategies that we want to talk about. And I just wanted to mention that these slides will not be pretty. They have information, key kind of tips just to kind of go through with you. But strategies to help you a little bit with the thoughts of worry, unease, and like that anxiety and that you might be feeling is to not ruminate. So that's one that's pretty big, is know and kind of figure out for yourself when you're falling into that cycle of worrying and constantly analyzing and going through things over and over again. And you know that it becomes not okay when you're not being productive, when there's no progress, when you're wearing yourself out, when you're becoming mentally drained and exhausted just from that worry. Because we know that people are going to worry. We know that thoughts are going to come into our head. There's going to be concerns, 100%. But know when you're ruminating about it, and that's all you're doing, and you're giving all your energy into that. So make peace with what you are doing. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is all I can do right now, or I feel great about what I'm doing. Sure, you know what? Maybe later I'll tackle that. But right now, I am happy where I am and what I'm doing. As we had mentioned a little bit, just not zeroing in on that worry. So changing that, not just saying, well, stop worrying, stop worrying, stop worrying. Okay, what else are we thinking about then? How do we kind of counteract that? So what are the good, positive things that are happening right now in your life? Or what are the good things that you are looking forward to, instead of this year is going to be awful, it's going to be horrible, I already know I'm going to fail, right? Having those negative thoughts already set up in our head, that's not going to help us. But what are some things that we could be looking forward to about going back to school? Whether you are doing learning from home or whether you're going into the school. Anybody? That's okay. Think about it for yourself too. But a lot of times it could be friends. I get to see people again. I just get to be face to face. Maybe for some people, they're like, I need to learn in a classroom. That's what I'm looking forward to, is actually learning, being able to get the help and support I need face to face. Maybe it is, you know what? I'm actually looking forward to learning from home because I was very productive, because maybe it saves me an hour bus ride, right? There are little tiny things that we can take away from it. So for yourself, try to sit down and make a list. What are some things you're looking forward to? What could happen, right? And it doesn't even have to be about learning per se and like school wise, because sometimes, you know what, maybe school isn't going to be the best part of your day, but what's coming up? Do you have a birthday coming up? You know, are you going to go outside to a pumpkin patch for fall? Like, are you excited about seasons changing? Find those little good things that you are looking forward to that are positive in your life and hold on to those. That's really important. And then the last one about this little slide is just knowing when to worry about worry. Because, you know, we can say like, oh, stop, you know, don't worry, kind of set it aside, distract yourself. But then actually noticing that, you know what, maybe I am worrying a lot. Maybe I am ruminating. Maybe it is interfering with my daily functioning, my habits, my mood, my eating and sleeping patterns. Maybe that level of anxiety and worry is a little bit too much, right? And there is no more enjoyment. So then we should be focusing on that worry and then saying, okay, where do we go from here? Let's reach out. Let's get some support because I might be stuck in a little bit of a cycle. If anyone ever has anything to add to any of these slides or the conversation or discussion, again, please feel free. So coming from Children's Mental Health Ontario, they have a website, which I will go to after the presentation too, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. But they had 6 tips to support mental wellness, and they have a great number of resources and different like PDFs and different links that will take you into their website for different types of information about going back to school. Really great. But they had, 6 good tips I thought were really important. The first one is to shine the spotlight on what is in your control. So here's the next slide when we talk about that, right? We want to talk about things that we know, maybe it's not just, oh, the things I can't control, the things I can control, but the things that you can decide, the decisions that you can make for yourself, right? And this really will help with, you know, pandemic-wise, COVID, but life in general. So stress management is a skill. And we know that we can't always control the things that happen outside or the things that happen like to us, but we can control, or we can change, or we can make the decisions on how we're going to think, how we're going to react, our behavior, what we're going to do about these situations. So we have this little picture up here on the slide, and it was things that I can control inside this little circle, and that's really what we want to focus on. And the things that we can't control is outside. So something like someone else's decisions, height, skin color, the weather, who loves me, other people being nice, other people forgiving others, past mistakes. Again, the past is the past. We can't really control that. But the things inside of our control, what could we do? How are we going to think and react? Can you do your homework? Can you be kind to others? Your decisions are something that you can control. Being honest, working hard, being accountable and showing up, taking care of yourself and making that time to figure out who you are and to love yourself and incorporate self-care. It's really important. Apologizing, who you want to surround yourself with, the people, the positive people in your life too. So these things are things that we can control. And it is so hard, because I get it. We all do it, even adults. It's not just something that says, oh, you're just youth. We focus so much on everyone else and everything else that is happening. So what is something right now going on that we can't control? Anybody? We want to work through kind of maybe our thought process on one of these things that's not up on the little screen. What's happening maybe right now?
Well, we can't like control COVID and like the cases going up and down.
Okay, Great example, especially because that's what people are being worried about, right? We can't really control COVID. We can't control the virus. We can't control the government and their responses and, you know, how fast the immunizations are working, right? They're doing what they're doing. What can we control? What could we do that would maybe ease our anxiety or our worries?
We could control how we look at it. Like, instead of saying, oh, I'm scared to go outside today, could be like, oh, well, if I am going outside, this is what I'm doing to keep myself safer. And like, just looking at things in a different point of view.
Yes. And that's a really good thing to think of. Like, oh, the numbers are going up. Well, this is stupid and it sucks and it's awful and we're just going to regress and go back to phase 1. And it's like, no, you know what? Yeah, maybe they're moving up because we have opened up things. But look at where we were, and that line is declining, like from where people have started, right? So kind of looking at the bigger picture of things. Also, as you had mentioned, you know, controlling your own safety measures. Well, I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to sanitize. I'm going to follow the procedures. I'm going to do what I can do in my control. I can see people in my bubble just to ensure that I am safe. You know, and it may be removing yourself from certain environments if people aren't following these rules and regulations, right? They are in place for a reason. And with people especially not wanting to follow them and the lineups, yeah, visited the outlet malls one day, and there were people yelling like, "Oh, your store's not like full. I can go in. Just let me in." And it's like, well, no, sorry, we can't. You know, you have to wear a seatbelt in the car. You have to wear a bike helmet for your safety. This is something we just need to do, and we need to follow it. It's different, and people have a hard time adapting to change, but it's going to be helpful for us. We're kind of, you know, changing our mindset, but then also changing our behavior too of what we are doing and who you're surrounding yourself with, right? And maybe not focusing so much on the news. I have a friend who has a friend in the States, and they're trying to hang out, but she is checking the news every single day and reading about it and the borders, and then getting upset and disappointed and disheartened when they say they're going to open and then they're going to shut again. And I was like, well, maybe you don't check every day. Maybe you check once a month and you see, okay, it was supposed to open. Oh, well, it's not, but we're also improving in this, this, and this. So maybe we'll try again next month. But setting yourself up for that disappointment is not helpful for your mental health either. A big thing to note too about in this circle of control is to avoid perfectionism. And that may be really hard, especially for those who are very avid learners and they want to get the highest marks and the grades and be perfect in all things. Unfortunately, we're not going to be perfect, right? And the school part of it is going to come. Right now, we need to focus on our mental health. We need to focus on our safety. We need to focus on just the reopening, structuring of it. And then we will get to the school and the learning. But we need to make sure that our social and emotional needs are very stable before we're learning about math and geography, right? And the safety piece of it, because people need to feel comfortable before they can get to this place of learning. And structure and routine and that feeling of safety is going to be really, really important during this time. So that's what we need to focus on. And I know that it's hard, right? But we'll talk about kind of keeping a routine. And when people keep routines, knowing that you can only do so much with your resources, with what is happening in the world, that's when you will be okay with not being perfect and not being 100%. And we can't be expected to be 100% all the time. You are doing your best, and your best is good enough. And that is something so key to remember. Getting things done and moving forward and working on your own mental health and coping strategies is so much better than being perfect in everything. So the next tip was getting into routine. And I'll focus a little bit on this one just because it has a couple more steps in it. So this also came from the CMHO. They have this on their tips, but I broke it down into a little bit more about routine. So a couple things. I also have a YouTube channel through Youth Talk that we've set up that will go more into depth about different videos about isolation and working from home and things like setting up your space and routine. And it is about like a 5-minute talk on each one, which I will not go into detail about it right now, but just kind of helping you understand that this is pretty good, pretty important stuff, but there is more out there too. And you can also do your own Googling and information. So the first one about getting into routine is just so important, is setting up a space. And this is more for someone who is going to do schoolwork from home, but also someone who is going into the school, right? Because you don't know the new rules, you don't know the new regulations. So when you get there and you have, like, let's say your orientation, saying, okay, I am focusing on my routine. What is it going to look like when I go into the school? Where is my workspace? Where's my desk? Do I have my materials too? That's going to be really important. So both of this could work for both types of youth going into school or not. So making sure that you have this space where you can focus and do your work is just so important, and somewhere where you can be comfortable and productive. So things to kind of break it down is where are you working? And if you're in the school, is it safe for you? Is it a good space? Is it too close to the door where there's too much commotion going on? Is it too close to the clock where you're facing it? And that for you is watching it tick around is too much for you, right? Do you need to be in the front or the back? Talking to your teachers. Obviously, they're going to have different rules because of COVID and coming back for the safety piece of it, but maybe talking to them still about, well, I need to be at the front. Hey, I know that we have to be this far apart. Can I just take that desk, right, before anything happens? If you're working from home, try not to work in your bed. You think that might be your only space, but it is not good to work where you sleep, because you're not actually getting that nice energized sleep at night. You are associating where you should be resting with work, and that might cause stress for some people too, right? Personally, I started and I was like, woo, I'm going to sit on the couch and I'm going to, put on TV in the background, and this is great. And I was doing that for 8 to 9 hours a day. And then I was also trying to watch a movie later on in the evening, and I was like, I don't want to be here. I do not want to be in this space, because I associated the living room with work, and I was like, I cannot sit here for 14 hours out of the day. Even if it was supposed to be one was working and one was relaxed time, I just couldn't do that, right? So you need to make sure that you are working only where you're working. And if you have a desk, if you have a chair, if it is your dining room table to do your homework or to do your work from home, even if you're upstairs, and making sure you have, like, maybe a good posture, but spreading out on your floor, right? So you're not maybe sitting in your bed, but you're like, oh, the bedroom is the only place that I can do work. Yeah, maybe thinking of getting a mini table in there, a side table or something like that. Because if you're going to be doing this from home, it's not going to be maybe a month, right? It's already been how many months? We just had to adapt for it. Hopefully you already have some things and a routine kind of set up a little bit. And then thinking of the lighting, right? Knowing that the bright lights and the screen time will affect your vision over time. It can give you headaches. Not being so dim with lighting, getting the natural light to come in. So places where you have windows is really important. Materials. So this one would be, get your materials early. Okay, for some people, school has started. If you had already gone in, some people have that staggered start, and it's okay. Again, start now then. Write a list of everything that you need, right? Because maybe you didn't get that from the school yet. So when you get that, say, okay, what do I need? Where can I get this? Oh, well, is there a smaller store that maybe I don't have to go to big giant Walmart? Can I order things online from Amazon that's next day delivery maybe, right? So knowing what's going to be best for you, but getting everything you need, having that in your workspace or having that in your backpack that you take to school with you when you leave, so that you're not, oh, I forget something. Oh, can I borrow it? Oh, now I'm a little bit nervous. Or, hey, teacher, do you have extras of this? You have all your materials. You're the only ones touching it. And it's okay to say, nope, sorry, you can't borrow this. This is mine and I need to be comfortable for myself, right? And you need to follow kind of the rules that way. Also, knowing that, like, your space is your space, and when you are ready to work, focusing on that. So having the materials here instead of saying, okay, I'm ready to work. Oh, whoops, forgot my water. Oh, come back. Oh, well, now I got to go run downstairs and grab the binder or the pen that I forgot, right? Having it all ready for you is going to keep you on a good, like, productive and efficient schedule that you're like, okay, I can do this. I want to work now too, right? Also making sure that materials counts as technology and the Wi-Fi connections, and figuring out everything prior instead of, oh my gosh, I'm trying to come on to this, webinar a minute before, but now I'm all, stressed out a little bit, right? Kind of thinking about that. Tidiness, just really important because clutter will decrease productivity and it will make sure, like, if you're organized, you're going to feel better about wanting to return to that space the next day. So personally, especially when I do presentations on the community, I'm like, whoo, presentation's done. I throw all my extra materials, I throw all my pamphlets in one big bin and I take it. And then the next time I have to do a presentation, I was like, this is chaos. And it's like, okay, if I even took that extra 5 minutes to cap the pens, put the elastics on the brochures, and just kind of make it organized, I would feel better and a little bit more relaxed and ready for the next thing that's happening. Again, I talked about ensuring your space is just for work, which is really, really important, but also knowing that it's going to look different for everyone too, for that. So number 2 is about kind of routine and breaks. Following a daily routine is so important, COVID related or not. It is so good to incorporate this into your life. So including the wake up and bedtimes, including your meals, including your breaks, right? Accepting that this is how it's going to be for as long as it lasts. So let's focus on the things, as I said, that we can control, right? Making sure that we aren't trying to go up to bed and get up at the same time each day. Making sure you are getting a good night's sleep. And for youth, it says you should be getting about 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep. Now, if I said, hey, who here does that? I can't even raise my hand because I don't, but it is something that I'm trying to incorporate too. I have an alarm that goes off at 9:30 each night to just do my daily routine because sometimes I'll be too tired. I don't want to brush my teeth. So I'll just stay awake because I don't want to brush my teeth. And then I'll just watch an extra show before I go and get it done. I'll just do it so that when you are tired and ready for bed, you can go, right? And, maybe not hitting snooze over and over again. When you get a good night's sleep, it's so important that your body is getting the rest and energy that it needs to process the day and repair itself from prior, and making sure that it is itself preparing for what's coming next, right? So still do the routine, even if you are working from home. And I know that I just mentioned this, that I was like, oh, well, I didn't wash my face and put on my makeup today until, 5:30 before this presentation. Well, you know what? Getting to the routine of doing what you were doing before, whether you go to school or whether you're working from home now or not, and getting up and showering and brushing your teeth and shaving and washing your face and eating breakfast, right? Putting on clothes, making sure that you are getting out of your pajamas and putting on different clothes. It doesn't have to be all fancy to the nines, even sweats, but changing, right? So we're kind of distinguishing that's home and this is work, even if you are still from home. And with the routine, it's also trying to do something that works for you. If you're working from home, there might be things that you need to follow at like 10 a.m. But if you know that you're going to be more productive from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., do those 4 hours and make sure that it works for you. And maybe you are more productive at night, but making sure that you're also getting that sleep that you do need, right? Setting the breaks throughout your workday and your school is so important, and following through and taking them. It's so much I know it's easy to say, oh, I don't need this 15-minute break. I'm going to power through, or I'll skip lunch, or I'll eat lunch and try to work at the same time. And trust me, I've done it, but it's not actually great for your mind, right? You want to make sure that you are taking those breaks to shut off your mind, stepping away from your actual work area, stretching, moving. It is a little bit of a grounding technique for you, right? It's really important to do so your mind is just focusing on something else, resting and recharging, and then when it comes back, it's now ready to carry on with what you were doing too. Very good grounding opportunity for that. And it doesn't have to be, okay, well, I'm taking a break and I'm just going to go sit here, or I'm going to take a break and start a movie and then you watch it for an hour, right? But it could be just getting up and going for a walk. It could be going to another room and doing a breathing exercise or activity. A really neat activity that you could do, I was going to say get up and do this now, but we did start a little bit later, so I won't have you do this activity. But get up, and whether you are going like outside the school doors or to a different room in your house or to your backyard, count the number of steps it takes to get you there. Okay? So that's your brain focusing on just counting those steps, right? And then open the door, go outside or look outside at something and focus on one object that's outside or something that's in your sight. Even if you move to another room, like go and focus on something else in the bedroom, let's say, right? If you were working on the dining room table, and concentrate on that just for a minute or two. What is it? What do you think the texture is? If it's like a flower, can you go and feel that? What does it feel like? What are the colors? What is the function of it? What does it do, right? Like maybe it's a pinwheel in your garden and you kind of just watch it spin and you think, oh, it's cool and it's shiny. Oh, pinwheel. I wonder how the name came, right? Kind of letting your mind wander with that, but really kind of focusing just on that one object and where it takes you. And then remembering to breathe, right? Doing some square breathing activities. Maybe you do breathe in and out like that pinwheel or like something you see in your room if it's a fan, right? And you're just like, or the pinwheel's like, or like in one breath and out in short 3 breaths. Whatever's going to work for you, right? Maybe you're breathing to get that pinwheel to spin like the air outside, something like that. When you take breaks, as I said, it's going to help you just get ready to focus and come back and be a lot more productive. And when you're organized, we will also be more efficient and we'll be able to finish our homework or our schoolwork at a reasonable time, right? So decide what you want to do for that day and stick to it. I know that there's going to be things that you have to do and deadlines. So write lists, make schedules. It might seem daunting, like, oh my gosh, I have this big giant thing due in 2 months. Okay, well, what do I need for that? Break down those tasks. If it's an essay, I need to pick my topic. So set a time where you want to pick a topic. Set time out of your schedule to say, I'm going to just research topics. I know that for me, my life is like, and my computer actually, and my life is like having 30 open tabs on the top of your screen. And it's, oh, I'm sending this email, stopped halfway to remember to research something. And then I changed to my Microsoft Teams because we have a meeting, but I haven't actually finished and closed those tabs down. And you want to make sure that, for me, it seems like a never-ending list of things to do. Okay, so what I've learned and what COVID has taught me is to set that list of daily tasks, but not a list of 7 things. Or if it is 7 things, maybe it's just get up on time, check. When you check it off, you feel so much better about it. But for me, I set about 3 things to do. When I've accomplished those 3 things, I feel good. When I continue to see my list, I'm like, this is overwhelming. There's too much. Oh my gosh. But I also set it in times of deadlines. And also, how do you feel, right? Is it something you love or something you hate? Can you push it off a little bit if it's something you don't want to do? Tackle the good things that you love first, that you're like, yes, I know I feel excited about this and I can do a good job on this project or this little piece of homework, or I don't mind reading, but I really don't want to write the flashcards, right? So what could you do first? But making sure that you are getting all the tasks done, but not becoming so overwhelmed about it. Write them down or tell other people too, because that's going to keep you accountable. And someone might come back to you and say, hey, did you end up doing that? And you're like, oh, I forgot about this, or I didn't do it. And knowing that they might ask you again, or that it's sitting there on a piece of paper that you're ready to scratch off, but you just haven't yet, will kind of push you and challenge you, which is actually really good too. So that's a little bit more just about setting up space, routines, breaks, breaking down the tasks, and like kind of the time management thing. And another thing to incorporate into your routine that's not up there is coming home and unwinding. Whether you're coming home from school or you are done, 4 o'clock hits and you're working from home and you're just done, well, unwind. Don't be like, yeah, parents, I'll get up and go to the grocery store with you, or I'm going to start cooking right away, or I got chores to do. Take that breather, because this is new. Because yes, we were working and doing schoolwork during the last months of school, but then you had a whole summer off, and now this is new. So making sure that you are taking the time for yourself. And Jordan, you had said earlier, to do the things you love, to enjoy things, right? And making sure that it's an activity that you do like, and giving yourself that time to recharge and rest. Really important. Then these are the other ones just to kind of mention that they had on their website was learning and understanding the new school routines. Don't just waltz in and think, well, okay, I don't have to worry about this. I'll pick it up eventually. No, be familiar with it, because it's going to make you more comfortable and feel safe. Ask questions. Teachers are there. There is information on school websites. If you don't know where to go, ask the teacher. Maybe you can't tell me an hour of important information, but what is our website? And figuring it out, right? Asking parents to help you, asking friends who have maybe more information. It is good to ask questions, and no question is a stupid question. Identify a support person in the school system for you, whether you are in the school or working from home. Is it a specific teacher? Is it a CYW, a social worker, a guidance counselor? Is it someone in admin, right, or in the office? Who could be your go-to that you think that you could reach out to for support if you ever needed anything? And then the last one is being open with maybe things you're going through, open with your own learning, being honest with your friends, calling on them for extra support as well. You're not alone. It might be different situations. You might feel things differently than other people, but everyone is experiencing the same uncertainty and unknown. And we're all just trying to work and navigate like these new waters together. So that's really important. We're all in this together. Extra tips. And these are some really good things that actually came from a past talk series that we did a couple months ago for youth. And they kind of brought in a lot of this extra information as well. Knowing that understanding things and how we learn is just so important, that it is still about learning, and we want to make sure that we are doing our schoolwork, but learning the rules, learning your safety protocols, learning yourself, what's going to work for you, learning your own self-care tips, right? So doing that and learning and growing is so important. And then, as I said, the school is going to follow, but we can't just write it off and say, well, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to do any work this year at all, right? So whatever little steps that you do take to help with your education, keep doing that. Gathering your materials now, again, we already talked about that. Establishing routines more than 1 week out. You know what? Maybe we can't do that. Maybe your school's starting in 6 days and you're like, oh, shoot, I should have. We talked about that earlier. Start now. Write your to-do list. Write it in. Okay, some people, I have a paper agenda. Some people have it on their phone. Whatever's going to help you. I also have a big calendar whiteboard in my room. Include wearing masks and using hand sanitizer on a regular basis. If you know that you might have to be doing this for 6 hours straight if you're in school, wear it at home. Watch a movie with a mask. When you go to the grocery store, don't just rip it off when you get to the parking lot and be like, oh gosh, I can breathe now, right? So try to incorporate that maybe because it will get a little bit more familiar with that, right? Using the hand sanitizer on a regular basis, finding ones that you like that maybe smell nice, that are going to work for you. Washing your hands more frequently, just kind of getting up and going to the bathroom and kind of taking those breaks. Checking the school websites daily. What is the new information? Sometimes, again, that could be too much of an overload of information for people, but it could also help and prepare you because you're getting the information just also when teachers are too. And they, again, as I said earlier, they're not keeping things from you, right? It's all an everyday thing, 1 day at a time, baby steps. And also, again, as I mentioned earlier, being kind and patient with other people and the system, right? The government, we said we can't control them, but they are trying to do things that are in our best interest. They are trying to protect the most amount of people that we can. The teachers, the education system, they are still there for you. And that is their main goal. Also incorporating pandemic procedures and keeping safe, being kind and patient with things like that, saying, okay, this is a learning curve. We're all trying to work it and navigate it. Also, with those people, as I said earlier, who might not be wearing masks, let's be kind and not judging them and saying, okay, there might be other cases. Also, some other things that youth have said too is that they mentioned this, and this is good because it's not just me sitting here as an adult saying it's okay. They said it will be okay, right? They had mentioned that they talked to their parents and they said they're going to try school for a week or two. And if they don't like it, then they're going to have that option to work from home. You also have that option that it is okay. The youth had said themselves to be persistent. They said that during the last months of the past year, that they said that they needed to keep communicating with teachers and sending follow-up emails and reaching out, because if the question goes unanswered, that only interferes with their learning. They had said, don't give up. I'm going to tell you, don't give up, but youth to youth had mentioned that as well. So they also said that they were a little bit worried about the pressure from their friends too, like, oh, why can't you come out? Or, well, you get to come to this party. Well, why can't I? And it's just a matter of saying, listen, you can blame it on your parents too. You can say, well, they don't want me to come, or I can't do this, but it's also, are we following the best procedures? What do we want, right? What is our hope and goal for the coming months? So you know what, sorry, I can't come to your party right now. You're not in my bubble, or you're going to try to have extra people at your house. And you know what? I don't want to do that right now because I would rather wait the next couple months. So kind of things like that. And then just really sticking to your values, your beliefs, and what's going to help you be less anxious and more calm with things too. With people who might, pressure you and say you want to come out or hang out and do all this, you know what? Try other options. Hey, I know we might be getting tired of Zoom calls and all of that, but what's cool? Is there an online book club? Is there trivia that you can do? Can you volunteer online? Some people are worried about getting their volunteer hours. So what could you do? What could you join and be a part of? So it doesn't have to be in school, but there are other things that you can do online with friends as well, and just get creative with that. There was like online escape rooms, which are really cool. And then a really great tip that came from one of the youth was to think about it and how you would deal with any other pressures, right? Yes, there are different things with masks and, sanitizing, but it's what would you do if you're stressed out in general? You breathe, you slow down, you talk about it, you take it one step at a time, you focus on self-care, you don't really think of the what ifs and the future, because I know that's very, very hard, but what's happening now? We're living in the moment, and how do we deal with things? Do we journal? Do you talk to a parent or a friend? Do you reach out for extra support and resources? Do you like to read? Do you like to go to the gym? If you can't go to the gym, if it's not open right now, then go outside for a run, right? What do you do now when there's pressures and stressors? So hopefully kind of maintaining the mental wellness overall. And a big, cool, great tip that I heard from one of the webinars is plan something fun during these first weeks. So your very first week back, whether you're working from home or not, plan something fun and schedule it in. Even if it's just, there's a really great new movie on Netflix. I'm going to watch that on Wednesday night. Or, yeah, you know what? I am going to go for a walk with my friend on Friday, just as the week is over. Making sure that it's not all nerves and, oh, relief. I can't just wait for this week is over, but incorporating fun things throughout that you will want to be okay and recharged and saying, yeah, you know what? Today's just a Thursday. I can do this because it's just one day because I got something planned tonight, or I had a great night last night. And you know what? I feel happy. When we are happier and more positive thinking, it's going to help us with our school. Okay, I just got a message in the chat. I know we have to leave soon, so I do believe that that's actually the end of the tips and strategies. So just knowing that people might turn to unhealthier, harmful ways to cope with things. And we want to make sure that you are taking care of your mental wellness every day, not just COVID and pandemic related, incorporating those, yes, and those safety measures, but also every day, the self-care and saying no to things and finding out what really makes you upset, what could potentially cause you to drop from wellness to distress. How do you get back for yourself to feeling well, right? Knowing your stressors. What do you notice about yourself when you're starting to feel overwhelmed? Physical signs of stress and all of that. Maintaining good mental health overall, right? So the eating habits, sleep, regular exercise, unplugging from the news sometimes, even just unplugging from social media, even if you're not looking at the news, right? Doing things with people, getting out there, relaxing, meditating, talking to people is so, so, so important. And that also a little tip about mindfulness. So that breathing exercises, the square breathing we have here, a lot more tips and tricks on